should form a Kevin McCarthy fan club.
I mean, right here.
That's good.
Can we be charter members?
Yeah.
Charter
Could this be
members.
like a college?
Yeah.
Could be the McCarthy College.
I really find, and I'm not an actor obviously, but I really find that acting, I would imagine, has a certain catharsis and therapeutic nature to it, because you get to act out certain elements that you wouldn't do in your real life.
McCarthy with the great intuitive questions.
Best in the game right now.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But the aggression, like the comedy, whatever you're doing in those moments, because you've played these characters now for many years, I am curious what catharsis and therapeutic nature it's brought to you as a person.
Yeah,
This
brother,
is a
you
great
go
question
first.
for you.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
Oh,
how-
this has saved me a fortune in therapy. I mean, there's literally all over the city. There's anger rooms. People go and smash the shit out of things.
Yeah, yeah.
If you pay for an hour, you put on helmet. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, I'm getting
Yeah.
paid a lot of money to do this for 3 months at a time, and wail on one of your best friends. What more?
Yeah.
What speaks friendship
weirdly,
more than
I'd say
hitting
that
the
Marvel
shit
got
out
the
of
deal. Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I've always felt there's a meld. I felt roles come into your life for a reason. You occupy them for a reason. They're there to teach you something. Somehow you bring yourself to it. And on the surface, I was barely ever in trouble at school, and yet here I am playing Wolverine. But it is part of me. There is that inside of me.
And there's also like, you know, you genuinely would not find a kinder, more collaborative friend in this business. It was the first thing I saw in 2008 when I worked with him on X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like, big movie star, decent, kind, knows everyone's name, understands the process, like is accountable, and the least sexy word, but I think a huge hallmark of character is being conscientious. People that are conscientious make amazing things, and Hugh is that guy, and at the same time has this ability to completely transform into this other thing that is so remarkable. And when you get a front row seat like I did to sit there, particularly on Deadpool Wolverine, and be that close to something that is that alive and crackling, is a pretty crazy
And I think
privilege.
everyone has that darkness in them.
Yeah.
Everyone has that unexpressible, or we're taught that you can't express your rage and that anger is to be contained. And so I think that Hugh has found this vehicle for all that darkness. And I think we all love it because we feel it vicariously.
Yeah.
It's a freedom for all the darker sides that we all would love.
What catharsis have you found through Deadpool? I mean, obviously, I also think it's interesting is that Wade Winston, obviously the WWW, and then Ryan Rodney Reynolds.
Yeah.
That's a
Wow.
pretty wild coincidence that you like RRR WWW.
And I think we're the same age. I know, I really mean it. I think we're actually, like, in comic book lore, I think we're roughly the same
Both
age. I don't know.
Canadian, yeah.
You'll cut that out if I'm wrong.
But like, what catharsis do you think you found in your own life through playing him?
I've never felt freer than when I played Deadpool.
Can I ask why?
I think it is the mask, and I think it is under the mask is another mask, you know? And I feel really free. I feel like I love, I know it sounds so weird, but I love clown work, and I think it's clown work. And in clown work, it's like I think an underrated profession. I'm not asking for pats on the back for it, but it is tricky. It's very, very hard to pull off, but I love it.
I want anyone to imagine any other movie star, a job that is defined by the face. Take away their face and have them carry a movie and hold the screen. That's what Ryan does as Deadpool. I know I seem like your publicist today, but Ryan is so uncomfortable.
Nice.
Well, I
His
really
knuckles are
have
white.
such
Knuckles are
deep,
white.
I really have respect.
Your knuckles are
Oh,
white.
I do that. Like,
Yeah, no, I literally, sometimes I would watch Ryan in a take. I'm like, there is no one else. There is no one else where you take away their face and all they have is their physicality and the voice and the specificity of both. And that's the performance that Ryan crafts as Deadpool.
When you posted the behind the scenes photo of the director's chairs on the set, it's Wade Wilson and Logan, not Deadpool and Wolverine. I know the obvious distinction is, the mask and the suit and things like that, but I do believe that there is an emotional difference between who Logan is and who Wolverine is and who Wade is and who Deadpool is. So I wanted to ask each of you, what is that line? What is that divided line? Like, who is Logan and who is Wolverine? Obviously, it's like Bruce Wayne and Batman or Peter Parker and Spider-Man. There is something that sets that apart.
We should form a Kevin McCarthy fan club.
I mean, right here.
That's good.
Can we be charter members?
Yeah.
Could this be
members.
like a college?
Yeah.
Could be the McCarthy College.
Yeah. I think, but I really do. I think it's a good question. I think there is a difference, between it. I feel like that's us as well, right? Like we in front of the camera, we are, even as we're promoting this movie, right? It's years of it, feud, joking, all that kind of stuff. Together, though, I feel like that the mask is off,
Right?
And we're actually incredibly emotional when we're talking about things that are generally Shawn. All of us, we all live near each other. We go on these long walks where we're like, kind of, talking about what really matters in our lives. Very few jokes, not really any, and it's
I think everyone feels like, right, there's who you are and there's the person we present to the world. And it defends our truer self. It masks, pun intended, our truest self. And really the beauty of this is we got to make it with friends with whom we can be our truer selves.
And we don't need those coping mechanisms like humor, which Deadpool uses to deflect, which I, of course, use to deflect, unmitigated, unblinking, terrifying rage with Hugh. And like eccentric, beautifully dressed, impeccably coiffed Shawn.
I saw you on Fallon, man. I was like, I was rooting for you.
Yeah. It's just like Ugg boots, and I'm like, and nothing else. You're like, buddy, you gotta wear something other than the Ugg boots.
Wow,
you're going to jail.
Even my own wife would not want the sight of that.
And then the full body Ugg boot. Like, where do you find that? Like full onesie. Like, I don't even know where it zips up. Where does it end? Where does it begin? Kevin, what was your question?
What was your next question, Kevin?
Well, by the way, that question goes very much to the heart of what the movie's about.
Yeah, the Wolverine versus Logan. What's the difference?
Well, I've always seen, I think one of the reasons I love him so much, even in the first one, I remember ad-libbing a whole thing about making fun of everyone's names, Cyclops and Storm, and what do they call you, Wheels? I just remember thinking, he's the guy who hates a label, hates a position, hates a title, even
or
a
a team.
suit,
Hates a team.
Yeah, any sort of system or authority, he questions everything because he's an outsider and he isolates, and his defense mechanism is to not sign on to any ideology, not to sign on to any team. So I think that's something that's, and I don't want to talk much more about it because I think in this film you've hit on something that is going to be answered.
Because I love the new trailer. And there's this tagline in the trailer, which is, we all have a moment that defines us. And I think one of the beauties of the Deadpool films is they are truly emotional. There's a vulnerability to the characters. They're broken characters who are trying to find their way home, either to their loved ones or families. If I were to ask you that question, a moment in your life that you feel like defines who you are right now as you sit here, what would you say?
Me calling these guys to say I want to be in. And that sounds like I'm just segueing back to the movie, but it somehow encapsulates a moment of a feeling in my gut that my head was like, but you already said that you're out, and now people are going to think, you said, and I didn't care. It's what I wanted. I could see the movie, and if I had even half an inkling back then when I called them of how good a time it would be, how fulfilling, and how proud of the movie I would be, I mean, honestly, it was a real moment where I went, trust your gut, Hugh Jackman, trust your gut.
What about for you, a moment in your life you felt that defined you?
Wow. Well, other than the birth of my daughter. Guys, I'm trying to show that I'm about...
What are their names?
Please, let's not go
Let me
too
answer that
far.
question.
Wow.
It's when I started living off interest.
I know that I'm supposed to be a balanced human.
Okay.
No, but
Am I
I'm gonna say-
stacking? Are you my stacking?
I'm gonna go with this, a prophetic moment.
Okay.
It's 2011. We're making Real Steel together. Apropos of nothing, Hugh Jackman says to me, I think if you ever meet and work with Ryan Reynolds, you guys are never going to stop. That's in 2011. It took 7 years. 2018, July 2018, I get a text out of the blue from Ryan Reynolds. Hey, do you have your next movie? I think I found our thing. And that
Like Free Guy.
and
It's
that
like a
and literally
cross between falling down. How was it described?
you had a
then?
weird
A
analogy.
cross between falling down and the Truman Show.
Yes. Yeah, well, that part I understood. Falling
Yeah.
down's dark.
It is dark. I
But
love
this
falling down.
this alliance.
The Burger King scene? Oh, yeah.
I mean, anyway, those are that prophecy led to this, I think, destined brotherhood. And now the brotherhood that we all share off screen and now getting to transpose it on. That's really been the great joy of my career.
I think for me, it's not just this tantric filmmaking cycle that I'm in with with Shawn Wilson Levy here. But
thanks for letting me come along on video. It was
yes,
awesome.
exactly.
Awesome.
It's been great. We don't let the background speak right now. Thank you so much. My God, I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed with him. God, genuinely though, the Deadpool 1 kind of changed my life. Like it was like I call it the mothership sometimes. Like it really did change my life. Not just because the movie did well. That's an easy thing to say, but like because it was like that movie, that process, making the movie is when I really grabbed some authorship. That doesn't mean like unilateral anything. I just mean like it really. I had a point of view and I got to express it, and it was incredibly rewarding, and that changed my life. That really did change everything, and it changed how I was a parent even. Like, I mean, it was, yeah.
Can I ask how?
Because, it's so easy to kind of live in this like state of where everyone's answering the questions for you, and sort of, actors in show business tend to have like a kind of a perimeter of representatives around you and all kinds of people. And when you start actually just dealing with things directly on your own, like picking up the phone, and I know this is such an uptown issue to have, but when you start, having a dialogue with the people that employ you and understanding that, like, your job is also to return the investment that they've made in you for them, and do that in a way that is packaged in entertainment and feels organic and, like a moment's thought. So for me, it was kind of that. It was that moment of like stepping out of the safety of like, what should I, asking everybody what should I do, and going, what do I want to do? Like, what's going to like make me feel fulfilled in some way? And it was to tell this story. I recognize it's not my Dances with Wolves, but it kind of is. It kind of is. I mean, it was. Yeah, it is. It feels like that to me. It's easy for me to downplay, but like that.
I'm going to
Deadpool
upplay
is
it for you. But this man changed the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
This guy redefined the genre.
And the marketing too.
Everything. But literally you went from being a movie star actor to a 360 creative force.
You see the white knuckles.
But I know you're deeply uncomfortable
this.
with this flattering talk, but that's the truth. The audacity of what Ryan saw and heard, the degree to which Deadpool 1 is expressive of his vision and his voice, it's absolute, and it really changed the genre.
Rob's score is brilliant, and one of the things I loved about watching the film was like the way you juxtapose score to soundtrack. A lot of films are heavy soundtrack films, a lot of films are heavy score films. Like look at Tarantino, like Pulp Fiction's all soundtrack, and Hateful Eight was just all score. Morricone, brilliant. I mean, that score was a genius. So as you're juxtaposing those scores and those, like you're dropping NSYNC in there, and then you have Rob's emotional theme in there as well. What's your conversation like with Rob narratively about switching that up?
His ear is so good. I learn a lot watching you talk about score with Rob.
Thank you. I mean, those conversations started between Ryan and I, because Ryan loves a needle drop.
Yes.
And Ryan has a great instincts for a playlist, and also the way that a song is licensed to have fun. In a movie. I remember when you dropped that song in at the opening of Adam Project, it changed the whole tonal entry for that movie. Obviously, the Mariah Carey track in Free Guy was its anthem. On this one, we would talk a lot about, okay, is this a song spot or is this a score spot? Yeah. And I remember learning on Real Steel, actually, I'll make this quick. On Real Steel, I had used an Explosions in the Sky song for the scene where Hugh Shadowbox trains the robot at dawn in front of the motel. And Danny Elfman said to me, he goes, you gotta give me the real estate. If you don't give me the real estate for score along the way, it won't hit the heart like you want it to
you're building to
in the
it.
third act. If you don't give me the real estate to plant seeds, it can't blossom in the climax of the third act. That's where I realized you've got to resist songs sometimes to plant seeds of score theme so that the payoff can be as emotional as possible at the end. And so that's very much what we did on this.
And Rob has a really unique ability to just get cut right to your heart. Like it just, and the movie, Kevin Feige calls it the most heartwarming R-rated movie ever made. And I think it's a pretty good description. I mean, because the tendency or the instinct for some would be to exploit the R rating, but we don't really want it to do that. We want it to be unexpected and really exploit the vulnerability of these characters, and that everything we're seeing and enjoying comedically is backstopped by something quite emotional and warm. And I think those two are so important. Even when we were in the writing process, it was writing story first and then worrying about comedy later. And it takes discipline because you want to hit jokes. And
Funny,
you
can skate on funny all day
Yeah,
long,
right.
but the funny didn't worry us. We needed to batten down the hatches on character and emotion first.
Yeah, and Wolverine is the perfect conduit for that. Hugh is the perfect person to bring that.
You know what
And
we've
it's-
never said, we've never articulated, and this hit me in the middle of the night last night. This movie is a love letter to the Wolverine.
Yeah,
We wrote this movie. The scenes that we obsessed and stressed about the most were the ones that pay tribute to the legacy of Wolverine.
and facilitate a room for
That's true. I never said
for
it out loud.
you and that character and the character to do something different.
There were things about the character that I've been trying to somehow get out through playing and through the storyline, and this movie, these guys cracked it. I basically said that to them. I said, this is the
let us
thing
there,
that's
though.
been bothering me, and I don't know how to solve it. And they solved it.
You went over that hump finally with it.
And it's so thrilling for me. It's so thrilling because I didn't know if it was me. Is it the writing? Is it the story? I honestly didn't know. And these guys cracked it.
It was so nice to hear you talk about it yesterday. We got to do a post-release spoilery kind of easy interview, and it was so cool to hear you talk about that thing, that specific thing in the movie.
You know, obviously one of the things I love about Deadpool is like the idea of like the character is obviously very vulnerable as well. But like when you say a line like, I've been waiting my whole life for this team up, you know, at the end of the day, that I watched that line, and I want to bring that up because when I hear that line, my suspension of disbelief is still there. I see Wade saying it, but I feel you saying
That's
it.
why we wrote it,
Exactly
Kevin.
how it is.
And so when you deliver a line like that, how much of that is Ryan Reynolds? How much of that's Wade Wilson?
That moment is meant to be, and we don't see his reciprocal moment, but in the trailer, but in the movie you do, is meant to be indistinguishable from, is it Hugh and Ryan having a conversation right now, or is it Deadpool and Wolverine, or is it Wade or Logan? It's sort of meant to be slightly ambiguous, and I think that's nice. I also love movies that leave you with some ponderance and some idea of like, well, I wonder what that, I know what it means to me. What does it mean to you?
But what you've given fans, what you're feeling is when you see that in this last trailer we just released, you're seeing Ryan say it to Hugh.
I waited my whole life for this team.
I love the shot in the end of the teaser when the shadow covers Wolverine over Deadpool. That is one of the most incredible shots I've ever seen. Can you guys just speak on that moment and how you captured it? Is it really both you doing it?
It's both them and it's all practical. I want to say, other than literally the moment of the claws coming out. That was, we got there, it's dawn, and George Richmond, our cinematographer, is like, guys, we need to, because I had imagined that shot early on. It was drawn in the storyboards. And our cinematographer's like, we are going to only have sun before these clouds roll in. If you want this shot in your movie, we got to go now. We got to right now. And everyone scrambled. And that shot in the teaser, that's all in camera. And there was like 20 minutes before it became cloudy all day. And we were able to get that shot for real.
Fucking England.
That shot is incredible.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, they're wrapping me. Congratulations to all three of you. This has been truly an honor to sit down with you guys today.
Please.
And
Always
it's always
a
good to
joy.
see you guys.